sprawled out over 4 counties and covering an area of around 759,620 acres of wilderness in the Sierra Nevada mountains of California, is the world-famous Yosemite National Park, with its myriad of mountains, lakes, glaciers, granite cliffs, meadows, canyons, rare geological formations, diverse forests, and waterfalls. It is a biodiversity hotspot with many species of flora and fauna, many unique to the region, that attracts droves of visitors each year. For the millions of tourists who visit every year, the trip will be a magnificent nature experience, full of grandeur and pristine vistas. But for some it will be different, for Yosemite National Park also seems to sometimes pull people in, to never return. In July of 1981, 14-year-old Stacey Aris, along with her father and a group of 7 others, went on a horseback riding trip to Yosemite National Park. Their destination was a picturesque Sunrise Meadows area, where on July 25th, they stopped to rest at a place called Sunrise High Sierra Camp, where there were accommodations at 9 cabins situated along the rugged 50-mile-high Sierra Camp Loop. The loop had an altitude of 94,000 feet above sea level. They rented a scenic cabin for the night, and Stacey put her things in her room and headed off for a short walk in the general vicinity, not planning to go far. Little did anyone know that this was the last anyone would ever see of her. During her walk, she went to talk with older members of the group named Gerald Stewart, who she saw sitting on a log not far away. She was seen going up and talking with Gerald and taking some photos of the surrounding wilderness, and then Gerald would explain later that she had told him she would take a walk to a nearby lake. Gerald offered to join them, and the two walked along surrounded by the peaceful serenity of the area before Gerald got tired and sat down to take a breather. Stacey told him she would explore ahead a bit and be right back. At the time, others in the group were watching Stacey and Gerald. They watched her walk off casually and go behind some trees, but she never did come back. After some time passed with no sign of her, the group at camp ventured out to see what was going on, but they found no sign of her. When they called out to her and got no response, talked to others on the trail who claimed to have not seen her, authorities were notified, and a more intensive search was launched. The search involved hundreds of people, sniffer dogs, and an aircraft, but there was no sign of Stacey Aris at all, except for the lens of her camera eerily sitting out beside the trail. There was no sign of any struggle along the trail, no evidence of an animal attack, and since this was all on easy terrain right next to the camp, it was seen as unlikely that she would have gotten lost within seconds like that. It was as if she had just evaporated into thin air. It is unknown just what happened to Stacey Aris, and she has not been seen since. Another strange vanishing happened in August of 2000, when on August 14th, a woman named Ruthann Rupert came into the Yosemite Medical Clinic in the Curry Village area to be treated for an eye infection around her prosthetic eye. After that, she told everyone she was going for a short hike in the Yosemite Falls area and headed off at a bit after noon. She went off in good spirits but would never be seen again. When she did not return, a massive search was carried out, but not a single trace of her was ever found. It would not be until 2008 that her backpack would be stumbled upon in a place called the Fireplace Creek Drainage, which was an area that had already been meticulously searched, but no other sign of her was ever found. What happened to her? No one has a clue. On June 15, 2005, 51-year-old Michael Allen Feisery headed out on a solo hike along the north side of Hetch Hetchy Reservoir. He was an experienced hiker and outdoorsman, with over 30 years hiking in wilderness areas. and his route was to be a hike from Hetch Hetchy Reservoir through Rancheria Falls, Telltale Mountain, Lake Vernon, to return back to the Hetch Hetchy. He went out along a relatively normal hike, oddly deciding to continue along an unplanned trail, but never returned. When he had still not been seen by the 19th, authorities were notified, and his car was found parked at the trail parking lot. A search was carried out, but all that could be found was his backpack near Telltale Mountain, just off the trail by the snow line. Dogs were brought in to look for a trail but could find nothing, and there was an eerie void of any clues. Icery nor any sign of him have been seen since. Moving along into later years, we have a strange vanishing of a 30-year-old George Penka, who on June 17, 2011, went on a hike at the Upper Yosemite Falls while on an excursion with 80 people on a church getaway. At the time, George was with a group of about 20 other hikers, but at some point he seems to have been separated from the group, although no one can seem to remember when exactly that was. What we do know is that he never rejoined them, and when a search was launched, there was no sign of him found. In this case, not a single scrap of clothing, backpack, or any other equipment was ever found, and it remains a puzzling enigma. Next, we have the case of 41-year-old Max Schweitzer, who was apparently a clandestine analyst at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and whether this had anything to do with his strange disappearance or not, it is an odd detail. In January of 2018, Max apparently parked his car at Camp 4 and then disappeared off the face of the earth. The missing man was said to have had some altercations with law enforcement over the years, including ransacking an FBI lobby in 2005 and giving threats to people in 2016, and it has been considered that this may have had something to do with his vanishing. All we know is that he was last seen hiking off into the woods, wearing a sweatshirt, shorts, and a dark-colored backpack, but after this he just vanished and has never been seen or heard from again. Bessie and Glenn Hyde were honeymooning in northern Arizona at the Grand Canyon when they vanished. They were traveling down the Colorado River by scow in October 1928 and planned to boat through the Grand Canyon. Bessie would have been the first woman ever to do so successfully. Glenn had run tough rivers before, but Bessie was a boating newbie. The couple ran across other boaters a few weeks before their disappearance, who said they got the feeling that Bessie wanted to turn back, but Glenn was pushing her on. If they completed the trip successfully, they could go on a paid lecture tour. So this trip was more than just fun. There was money at stake. Cut to several months later, the Hyde's boat was discovered that winter, seemingly undisturbed. It was upright and full of supplies, but the couple was gone. There are many theories about what happened to the Hydes. Did they disembark and try a too difficult side hike? Did they have an argument that turned violent? Or were they abducted? There are conflicting reports about what happened to the Hydes, and more than one Bessie Hyde sighting in the years that followed. 8-year-old Catherine Van Alst disappeared from Devil's Den State Park near Arkansas Ozark National Forest when she and her family were camping. Van Alst apparently was playing with her brothers when she wandered off and got lost and couldn't find her way back. What makes her disappearance remarkable is that when she was found after 6 days wandering the woods, she was eerily calm. University of Arkansas student Porter Chadwick was part of the search party that found Van Alst. He told the Pittsburgh Press that when he found her, she walked stoically out of a cave and just said, "Here I am." She had survived on berries and spent nights sleeping in caves. Many other hikers have gotten lost in that part of the Ozarks and not been as lucky as Van Alst. 6-year-old Larry Jeffrey disappeared near the peak of 12,000-foot Mount Charleston in Humboldt-Toyabe National Forest, just a short drive from Las Vegas. The search began immediately after the boy wandered away from his brothers, and within days the National Guard and a team of bloodhounds had joined the search. In a TV interview, David Paulides told reporter George Knapp that there were no predators afoot that day, and since the area they were in is pretty secluded, it was easy to rule out an abduction by car. This boy just walked into oblivion, Paulides said. When Jeffrey disappeared, he was wearing light clothing, and authorities were doubtful that he could survive the temperatures at night. Searchers found and lost a trail a few different times, and they discovered evidence that the boy had been eating insects and foraging for berries along the way. Overall, around 1,000 people searched for 16 days, but never found him. Douglas Legg and some of his family were heading out for a hike in the Adirondack forest when his uncle spotted poison ivy and told Legg to put on long pants to protect himself. The family's cabin was a short, straight shot from where they were, but 8-year-old Legg never returned. Unlike a lot of kids who have gone missing in national parks, Legg was very familiar with these woods. His family owned the cabin where they were staying and described Legg as a mini woodsman because they always hiked there together often. Legg's disappearance sparked one of the southern Adirondacks' largest search and rescue missions, with more than 600 people searching the woods. But like Martin, Legg left no trail. Unlike in the Martin case, though, rescuers used dogs in their search. Some accounts describe dogs following Legg's scent for over 30 miles through difficult terrain. How could a young child have traveled alone for such a distance? Some researchers reported seeing bear-like tracks near the site. While the black bears do drag their prey to cover, dragging someone 30 miles over difficult terrain seems unusual. The family became desperate and began suspecting each other and even their friends of abducting Legg, but the police were certain that the mini woodsman had simply gotten lost. He was never found. According to Peninsula Daily News, Olympic National Park in northern Washington state has a feature that's not as majestic as its mountain views. At least 4 hikers have mysteriously disappeared from the area in the past 25 years, one of whom was 73-year-old John Devine. Devine planned to hike into the park from Mount Baldy. The trail is a tough 24 miles, and though Devine was elderly, he was also an experienced long-distance hiker. Devine was camping with his friend Greg Balzar. They split up on the day that Devine went missing. Balzar went off to hunt while Devine took off on a day hike. Devine never returned. The fruitless search for Devine lasted a full week until a rescue helicopter crash killed 3 people and injured 5 others. By that time, weather conditions had deteriorated, making the chances of finding Devine slim to none. Friends and family said that Devine wouldn't want to put people in danger on his behalf, and the search was called off. The search helicopter's crash is as mysterious as Devine's disappearance. Before takeoff, the pilot used a hand signal, indicating that he was going to wait 5 minutes for conditions to improve before attempting. A moment later, the helicopter departed vertically without warning and crashed into the side of the mountain. Thank you guys for watching and listening to the very end. If you haven't subscribed now, please consider subscribing and sharing my channel with others. If you would like to be featured on an upcoming scary video, email me your stories at my email in the description box below. Until we meet again, stay sinful.